Eamonn Holmes gave his view as guests on GB News discussed one article about racism in the countryside, in which he alluded to his experience that any strangers to small towns are looked at. It came as GB News guest and former Labour MP Kate Hoey addressed an article in The Telegraph about whether or not the British countryside is racist. She began to explain the arguments put forward by the journalists when Eamonn Holmes weighed in to add his view, stating any strangers who go to small, close-knit areas are noticed. "Kate, you're a country lass," Eamonn stated. "We're going to the Telegraph page 14, and this is about racism in the countryside." "Yes," Kate replied. "Well, it's 90 years ago we had the famous walking in the countryside, which is known as the Kinder Walk, you know, that actually set the precedent that the countryside should be open to everyone. And that's a very famous saying, and it really has opened up the countryside. But what has happened this time, there's a new group called Kinder in Color, and basically what they're saying is because not a lot of people go from ethnic minorities into the countryside, it's because the countryside is racist." The 75-year-old continued, "Now, this is a very good argument by Anaya Forlerin Eamonn, from the point of view of being black herself. And she's saying, not only in a society such as ours, in which every debate has turned into one about race, are these nuances assumed to a diversity agenda. Now, there's no doubt about it, a lot of people living in metropolitan areas, black or white, particularly from working class areas, don't go out into the countryside and go for walks and the kind of things some people would take for granted. But to then turn that into being, it's because people in the countryside are racist, I think is a bit of a leap." "Do you know," Eamonn commented, "my experience is that the small communities, the closely knit communities, say you go into a country pub, if I walked in, people would look and say, 'Who's that man over there?' Or whatever." He asked, "Does that just happen to everybody because the communities are so tightly knit?" Kate responded, "Well, yes, strangers are always noticed in a small country area. But that's a big thing to then say that people who are doing that if a black family comes in are racist. It may well just be, for example, in Northern Ireland there are not huge numbers yet of people from ethnic minorities, although it is growing." Eamonn shared, "Kate, my first job as a reporter at 18 was as a farming correspondent. You probably watched my program, back in the day, Tell Us About Your Farm. Tell us about where and how you grew up." Kate proceeded to explain her experiences on a countryside farm.